You haven't lived a day on Mars. Not really. Not until you've stood still, completely still, in the early Martian dawn, where everything is quiet. So quiet that the sound of your own heartbeat feels like an echo in an empty cathedral. There's a stillness here that doesn't exist on Earth. A kind of slow silence, as if time itself has chosen to walk instead of run. You wake up, not with an alarm, but with the faint hum of the life support system. It's constant, like the breathing of a sleeping animal, soft and repetitive. You don't rush out of bed. There's no reason to. The sun is slow here. It stretches itself across the reddish plains like a cat waking from a long nap. Your bed is warm, your thoughts are even warmer, and for a moment you just breathe. The walls of your habitat are a gentle beige, a color that was chosen to reduce stress. Someone, somewhere, designed this place to make you feel safe. And it works. You lie there and listen, not to birds or wind or traffic, but to your own existence. The way your breath moves. The way your body relaxes. And you remember, you are on Mars. You sit up. The floor is padded, the air recycled but clean. You move slowly, not just because of the reduced gravity, but because there's no reason to rush. Mars doesn't mind waiting. It has waited billions of years, after all, for someone to listen. You dress in layers, soft thermals, and an outer coverall that hugs your form just enough to remind you that you're here, alive, held by this strange place. Outside the dome, the wind whispers across sand dunes, sculpted by time into soft hills and valleys. But here inside, it's always calm, warm, safe. You make your way to the observation deck. The glass is curved, like the surface of an old snow globe, giving you a wide view of the Martian landscape. The sky is not black, not blue. It's a faded rose. The kind of sky that belongs to dreams or paintings. You see the sunrise. Not in a rush, but slowly. So slowly it feels like watching the world exhale. The light is orange and gold, filtered through dust that's danced in this thin air for centuries. And suddenly, you feel something strange, peace. Deep, unshakable peace. This is not Earth. There are no honking horns, no buzzing phones, no emails or schedules. Just you, the dust, and the silence. You sip warm water, your only companion the soft click of the heating unit adjusting itself. And you smile. A quiet smile, the kind you make when no one is watching. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stepped outside. Slowly. Carefully. Each layer of your suit is a ritual. Inner suit, thermal seal, environmental harness. The helmet clicks on last. It hisses gently, like a sigh. And then airlock. The airlock is a chamber of waiting. A pause between safety and the unknown. It's not a door, it's a moment. A moment to ask yourself why. Why you're here. Why you chose this. And the answer is always the same, because you had to know. The outer door opens. You step onto the surface. Red dust beneath your feet. It's softer than you imagined. Almost like flour. Your boots leave clean imprints, sharp and defined. They will remain for years, maybe centuries. Time here doesn't erase, not quickly. Mars remembers. You walk slowly at first, your body adjusting to the gravity, your mind adjusting to the silence. Every sound is you, your breath, your steps, your heartbeat. There are no birds here, no wind through trees, just the whisper of dust shifting in tiny eddies stirred by your motion. Ahead, the terrain rises. A gentle hill, one you've named in your mind 100 times. You climb it often, not for exercise, but for perspective. At the top you sit. Just sit. The view is everything. Wide plains stretch to the horizon. Scattered rocks. Hints of craters. And the soft, endless rust red of the soil. You close your eyes. You imagine Earth. Blue and white. So alive, so loud. You feel a flicker of longing, but it fades. Mars is not home, but it is honest. It asks nothing of you but presence. It offers no lies, no illusions, just itself in silence. You speak sometimes, just to hear your voice. It sounds different in the helmet, more intimate, like a secret between you and the planet. You say things like, "I'm here," or "Thank you," not because Mars hears, but because it feels right. Like praying without a god, just reverence. Later you return. The habitat is warm again, familiar. You remove your helmet and inhale recycled air as if it were perfume. You stretch, you move, you sit, you write. Not reports, not data, just thoughts. Pages and pages of them. About nothing and everything. About the way light falls on rock. About dreams that drift like clouds. About the taste of silence. You eat slowly. Rehydrated food, warm and bland. But it comforts you. You feel the weight of the day, not in your bones, but in your soul. A soft weight, like a blanket. And as the light outside fades, turning the sky from rose to gray, you feel a kind of satisfaction that words barely hold. Night comes gently on Mars. No stars yet. Just a gradual dimming, like someone turning down the light in a quiet room. You prepare for bed. You lie down. The hum of the systems returns. A lullaby of machinery and breath. And you smile again. Because you understand something now. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've truly slowed down. Until you've let the silence speak. Until you've listened. You haven't lived a day on Mars, but you will. Sleep comes slowly, sweetly, and Mars waits. Patient, timeless, still. The second day on Mars doesn't feel like a new beginning. It feels like a continuation, a long exhale following a deep inhale. There are no sharp lines between days here. Just a slow unfolding of time, as steady and quiet as a drifting cloud in an atmosphere that barely holds it. You wake gently, as if from a dream that mirrored reality. The low hum of your habitat welcomes you back, not as a sound, but as a presence. A soft reminder that you are safe, that you are still here. You blink your eyes open. The ceiling is the same. The color of sand softened by moonlight. You stretch slowly, feeling how the low gravity cradles your limbs. You don't feel heavy here. You feel suspended, as if your body has forgotten how to rush. The morning routine is a meditation. Each movement measured, each breath counted. You wash your face with a warm cloth, not water. There's not enough for that luxury. But the cloth is gentle, and the warmth soaks into your skin like sunlight. You dress in the same suit as yesterday, but it feels new. Everything feels new when your mind is quiet enough to notice. You prepare your breakfast, just warm oats, rehydrated, but the smell reminds you of earth, of early mornings and quiet kitchens. You eat slowly, one spoonful at a time, chewing not for nourishment, but for grounding. The warmth in your mouth is a small comfort, and on Mars, small comforts are gold. After breakfast, you write, not to report, not to analyze. You write to feel. Words flow from your fingers into your journal like water into dry soil. You write about silence, about the way time feels different here, about dreams that don't need to end when you open your eyes. You write about the stars. You haven't seen them clearly yet. Not through the dome, not through the orange haze of dusk. But you know they're there. Watching, waiting, like everything on this planet. You suit up. The ritual again. Layers, seals, clicks and soft hisses. You enter the airlock with a calmness that feels earned. The door closes behind you with a sigh, and you're alone again, just you and the vacuum waiting beyond the other door. The outer hatch opens. You step out. The sky is paler this morning, the dust not yet kicked up by the wind. The light is diffuse, like the whole world is glowing from within. And the silence greets you like an old friend. You walk again. Not far. Just to the same hill. The one you named yesterday. You don't climb it quickly. There's no prize at the top. Only space. Only peace. You reach the summit and sit. The view hasn't changed, but your perception has. Today, you notice a new pattern in the dust. A cluster of rocks that look like a sleeping animal. A curve in the landscape that feels like a wave frozen mid-crest. You notice because you're still. Because you're open. Because there is nothing else to distract you. You breathe. And the world breathes with you. Time stretches. Minutes feel like hours, but not in a burdensome way. They feel like they're being given to you as a gift. Space to feel, to reflect, to remember. You think of Earth, not with longing, but with curiosity. What is it doing right now? Turning, spinning, rushing. Noise. Movement. Urgency. Here, there is none of that. Here, everything is slow. You whisper again. Just a word this time. Gratitude. The helmet holds your voice, lets you hear it echo back to yourself. You nod. Yes. That's the word. Later you return. The walk is slower, more deliberate. You pause more often. To listen. To look. A small stone catches your eye. Perfectly round. You pick it up. Hold it. Wonder about the journey it took to get here. How many storms shaped it. How many centuries passed as it lay beneath the sand? Back in the habitat, you placed the stone on your desk. A reminder, a companion. You name it quietly, though you don't write the name down. Some things are sacred enough to keep unspoken. Lunch is simple. A warm broth, sipped in silence. You sit by the window, watching the horizon. You imagine you can hear the planet whispering, not in words, but in sensations. The way the light shifts, the way the dust dances, the way everything simply is. Afternoon comes slowly. The light deepens. The sky grows more saturated, like the world is being painted stroke by stroke. You nap. Just a short one. Your body curled beneath a thin blanket, your breath slow, your dreams wide. When you wake, you feel rested in a way that's hard to describe. It's not just your body, it's your spirit, as if your soul itself had been cradled while you slept. You sit again at your desk, not to write, just to sit. The stone is still there, waiting. You pick it up once more and close your eyes. The room is still. Time is still. Even your heartbeat seems to slow. You wonder what it would be like to never leave, to let go of Earth entirely, to become part of this place, to let Mars rewrite the rhythm of your being. You walk to the greenhouse. Small, contained, but alive. Green shoots reaching toward artificial light. The scent of plants, a mix of wet soil and quiet determination. You touch a leaf. It's soft. It's real. A reminder that life finds a way. Even here. You talk to the plants. Not because they hear, but because it helps. You're doing well, you say. Keep growing. The words feel right. Encouragement given without expectation. Evening arrives. Slowly, like everything else. You eat again. The same food, but it feels different. There's comfort in repetition. In routine, in knowing what comes next. The light fades. Shadows stretch. You watch the sky turn. Still no stars. Not yet. But you wait. Patient. Still. And then, one. A small point of light. Then another. And another. The stars are not loud here. They do not sparkle. They glow. Softly. Like candlelight. Like old memories. You sit in darkness, just watching. Breathing. Feeling the quiet press of the universe all around you. And in that moment, you realize something simple but profound. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've learned how to be alone without being lonely. Until you've learned how to be still without being bored. Until you've learned how to listen, not to voices, but to presence. You crawl into bed. The blanket is light. The air warm. The hum of life support a lullaby you now know by heart. You close your eyes. Mars doesn't sing you to sleep. It doesn't rock you or whisper promises. It just is. Vast. Silent. Present. And that is enough. There is a silence that lives on Mars, not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. It's a kind of quiet that settles in your chest, makes a home behind your ribs. and wraps itself around your thoughts like a blanket on a winter morning. And on your third day here, that silence feels less like emptiness and more like belonging. You wake with no memory of dreams, just the warmth of sleep still clinging to your skin. The hum of the habitat greets you again, not as background noise, but as a familiar friend. Each morning, it sounds a little softer, or maybe your ears have adjusted, or your soul has. The bed cradles you gently as you lie still, not yet ready to move. There's no alarm, no demand, just a slow unfolding of time. Your breathing is slow. Your body feels like it's floating. You smile, not because of joy, but because of peace. You are learning the language of this place, one that doesn't speak in words, but in rhythms, in pauses. You sit up, stretch, and let your eyes wander the room. Everything is in its place. The journal still open, the small round stone resting where you left it. The plants in the greenhouse gently lit by morning lamps. And beyond the dome, the sky turns again, from charcoal gray to soft, diluted gold. You move without rush. Your feet barely press into the padded floor. You dress, you wash, you sip warm water. Each action is a meditation. You're not surviving here. You're existing. Present. Grounded, even without gravity. Your thoughts drift gently, not toward the past, not toward the future. Just here. This moment. The taste of warm oatmeal. The feel of fabric against your skin. The soft touch of synthetic cotton. The smell of reused air. You're no longer searching for Earth. You're beginning to understand Mars. You sit by the dome. The sky outside is streaked with faint clouds, ice crystals high above, caught in the thin Martian atmosphere. They don't move fast. They drift. Like your thoughts. You press your palm to the glass and feel nothing but the coolness of separation. But somehow you feel connected. After breakfast, you step into the airlock once more. The ritual is muscle memory now. Suiting up isn't tedious. It's sacred. Like preparing for ceremony. Clicks, seals, pressure checks. Your breath inside the helmet sounds like waves in a distant sea. Slow. Repeating. Soothing. The outer door opens, and the planet greets you, not with sound, but with presence. The red dust stretches out like a vast canvas. You take a step, and another. Your shadow follows you in long, quiet strides. There is no wind yet, no movement, only you and Mars. You walk in a direction you haven't walked before. There's no destination, only exploration. Your boots leave tracks in the dust, and with each step you feel lighter. Not just in body, but in mind. You come across a rock formation. Tall, jagged, reaching skyward like forgotten monuments. You stop. You stare. You feel small, and somehow that feels good. There's comfort in insignificance when the silence is kind. You sit at the base of one stone, lean back against it, and close your eyes. You feel the heat of the filtered sun on your suit. The planet does not speak, and yet you understand. It is ancient, patient, and in its quiet way, welcoming. Not with open arms, but with open space. You sit for what might be an hour, maybe more. Time has softened here. It no longer ticks, it flows. You speak softly, not for anyone else, just for yourself. I'm still here, and that is enough. The wind picks up slightly, just a breeze. It moves a fine layer of dust, reshaping the surface like a painter brushing new color onto an old canvas. You return slowly, each step deliberate. You stop often, not because you're tired, but because you don't want to miss anything. A curve in the terrain, a glint of light on a distant hill, a pattern in the sand that looks like waves. You pause to memorize it all, not with your mind, but with your heart. Back inside, you remove your helmet, stretch your arms wide, and breathe in. The air tastes the same, but somehow it feels more nourishing. You feel grateful for it. For every molecule. You write. Pages and pages. Not stories, not entries, just thoughts. One flows into the next. Sentences become streams. Your handwriting changes as your thoughts shift. It doesn't matter. Nothing here needs to be perfect. Only true. You draw, too. Simple shapes. Abstract curves. Dust dunes. A memory of a rock formation. Your own face, sketched not from a mirror, but from feeling. You draw your footprints in the dust. A circle. A leaf from the greenhouse. You draw to remember. To connect. To be. Later you tend to the plants. You whisper to them as you touch their leaves. You're strong, you say. You belong here too. The green is brighter today. Or maybe your eyes have changed. Maybe you're seeing more clearly now. Dinner is quiet. A warm stew from a pouch. Familiar now. You savor it slowly. The light fades again, and you watch it go. The sun doesn't set quickly here. It lingers, like it's reluctant to leave. And the stars, they come earlier this time. A little brighter, a little closer. You lie on your bed, fully clothed, your journal still open beside you. You don't read. You don't write. You just rest. You stare at the ceiling and feel the weight of stillness pressing gently on your chest. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've forgotten what day it is. Until you've let go of clocks. Until you've surrendered your time to the silence. And in that surrender, you've found something unexpected. A version of yourself that is quiet, gentle, patient. A self that doesn't need noise to feel alive. That doesn't need to speak to feel heard. You curl beneath your blanket. The hum returns. The soft pulse of the habitat's breath. You match it with your own. And as your eyes close, you whisper again. I understand. Mars doesn't answer. It never does. But it doesn't need to. Because now, for the first time, you feel like you belong. The fourth day doesn't begin. It unfolds. There is no start. No sudden brightness or jarring sound. Just a gentle shift, from darkness to dim light, from stillness to motion. You open your eyes slowly. You don't need to stretch. You already feel stretched, long and quiet, like the shadows that paint themselves across the habitat floor. You lie still for minutes, maybe longer. You're not counting. That was an Earth habit. Here, you exist without measurement. The air feels warmer this morning, or maybe you're simply more at peace. You rise. The room hasn't changed, but your awareness of it has. Every item, every curve of the walls, every subtle light, feels like it's part of you now. As if the space has stopped being a shelter and started becoming a home. Your movements are automatic, but sacred. Washington dress. Drink. Eat. These are not chores. They are rituals. Offerings to the stillness around you. Every bite of food feels earned. Every breath feels like a dialogue with something ancient and vast. You glance at your journal but don't open it. Not today. Today isn't for words. Today is for listening. You suit up again. You know every layer now. You know the feel of the gloves before your hands slide in. You know the soft resistance of the seals as they lock. The helmet sighs into place. The hiss of pressurization is no longer startling. It's comforting. The outer door opens. Mars is waiting. The wind is soft today. You can see the movement in the dust, like fingers brushing over the surface of a sleeping face. You take your first step, and the crunch beneath your boots echoes louder than it should. You walk again. This time toward the canyon. You've seen it on the maps. You've imagined it. But today, you want to feel its breath. The walk is long, but time doesn't matter. You stop often, to touch a stone, to feel the curve of a ridge, to watch the dust spiral in slow, lazy circles. These are the moments that matter, not the destination. The walk is the story. Eventually, the land opens. The canyon is not wide, but it is deep. A wound in the skin of the world. Its walls are smooth, weathered by ancient winds. You stand at the edge and feel the space below you. It pulls your gaze downward, but not with fear. With awe. You sit, legs crossed, hands resting on your thighs. You close your eyes, and you listen. At first, there's nothing. Then, something. A vibration. Subtle. Beneath your suit, beneath your skin. As if the planet is humming, and now, finally, you can hear it. You breathe with it. In. Out. In. Out. Your heartbeat slows. Your thoughts untangle. You are no longer on Mars. You are with Mars. Time passes. You don't know how much. But eventually, the wind shifts. The light changes. You open your eyes. The canyon remains unchanged. But you feel altered. You whisper, "Thank you." You begin your walk back. Every step feels new. The path is the same, but your perception is not. You notice colors in the dust you hadn't seen before. Shades of crimson and burnt sienna. You see a pattern in the rocks, like veins, like maps. You stop to place your palm on the ground. Even through your glove, you imagine you can feel its warmth. You return to the habitat in silence. Inside, you remove your suit piece by piece, not with urgency, but with care, like removing layers of thought, returning to something more honest, more whole. You shower with steam, not water. The vapor surrounds you, clings to your skin, and carries away the weight of the canyon. You breathe deeply, eyes closed, and let go of everything you don't need. Then tea, a small pouch, rehydrated. It's not real tea, but it feels real enough. The warmth in your hands, the scent of herbs and memory. You sit and sip, one slow breath at a time. Later you tend the plants again. One of them has bloomed. A small flower, pale green, with a hint of violet. It's not supposed to bloom yet, but it did. You stare at it for a long time. Then you reach out and gently brush your finger along its edge. It feels like hope. Dinner comes. Quiet. Familiar. You don't speak. You don't write. You just eat. Then sit. Then breathe. Outside, the stars arrive early. Not in clusters. In whispers. You dim the lights. You lie in bed. And as your eyes drift closed, you think, you haven't lived a day on Mars until you've learned to let go. Of urgency. Of expectation. Of noise. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped needing Mars to be something else. Until you've let it be exactly what it is, still, silent, strong. And now you sleep. Not as a visitor, but as someone who belongs. The fifth day blends into the others like one brushstroke into the next in a painting too large to see all at once. And you wake with the sensation that you've always been here, that Mars is no longer a distant world but a presence that wraps around you like time itself, slow and endless. You lie still longer than usual. Not because you're tired, but because you're finally in rhythm with this planet's heartbeat, which is not a beat at all but a long, low hum, barely a whisper, threaded into every rock and shadow and grain of red dust. You don't check the clock anymore. You haven't for days. You simply rise when your body tells you to. And as you sit on the edge of your bed and place your bare feet on the warm padded floor, you realize how little you miss the sound of waking alarms, the way they used to jolt you from sleep, as if every day were a battle instead of a gift. You move gently, like someone moving through a dream they don't want to wake from. The routine remains, but each action feels more meaningful now. Not just something you do to survive, but a way to acknowledge that you are alive, that this day matters. You run a cloth over your face and feel the warmth soak into your skin, feel the quiet satisfaction of small comforts. You dress not out of necessity, but with reverence, like slipping into a second skin that lets you walk between worlds. This strange place and the one you brought with you in memory. Breakfast is simple, a warm drink, a bland bite, but you taste it more fully now. It's not what you eat that matters but how you eat it. And here, you eat slowly, gratefully, as if each spoonful connects you to something bigger. You walk to the dome and place your hand against the curve of glass, staring out at the light that filters across the horizon like paint brushed across canvas by the slow hand of time. The world outside glows in rust and gold, every grain of dust catching fire in the sun's low angle. You don't rush to suit up today. You just breathe. You wait. You listen. You think about how this silence, this vast, endless silence, is not empty. It's full of meaning, full of space for thought, for memory, for presence. And when you finally move, it's not to escape the silence, but to walk deeper into it. The suit embraces you like an old friend, each piece familiar now, each step of the process like part of a slow dance you've learned by heart. The airlock cycles with its soft hiss, and the outer door opens to a world unchanged, and yet, somehow, always new. You step outside and begin to walk, not toward anything in particular, just toward the day itself, toward whatever it wants to show you. The wind has picked up slightly, and dust rolls across the plain in soft spirals that move like dancers too slow to see in motion. Your boots leave fresh tracks in their wake, each one a small punctuation in a story written in silence. Today, you find a ridge you've never climbed. It isn't high, but the path is uneven, and as you ascend, you pause often, not from fatigue, but from wonder. Every step reveals something new, a curved rock that looks like a fossil, a vein of color in the earth that glimmers faintly, the distant outline of a crater lit by golden light. When you reach the top, you sit again, as you always do, not to rest, but to absorb. The view stretches endlessly, but your eyes find beauty in the smallest places. The way shadows curve, the way one rock leans against another as if for comfort, the way the dust moves like breath. You speak quietly, not to anyone, not even to Mars, but to yourself. This is enough. And it is. It truly is. You stay longer this time, your mind floating gently above thought, not quite dreaming, not quite thinking, just existing. You feel light, and not just from the gravity, light in spirit, as if the planet has lifted something from your shoulders that you didn't know you were carrying. When you return, the sun has shifted. The light inside the habitat is warm and welcoming. You remove your suit, drink a slow glass of water, and sit by the greenhouse. The flower that bloomed yesterday still stands delicate but firm. You notice another bud forming, and something in you softens. You whisper, "You're not alone." Maybe you mean the plant. Maybe you mean yourself. It doesn't matter. You write again, this time a single sentence. Mars doesn't teach you to survive. It teaches you to surrender. You stare at the words, then close the journal without adding more. The sentence is enough. You drink more tea. You walk from one room to another with no real destination. You lie on the floor just to feel the surface beneath you. You stand in the middle of the sleeping quarters and close your eyes and just exist. Later, when darkness comes, you watch the stars again. They are your only company, but they are constant, and that constancy is more comforting than any conversation. You lie in bed and think of nothing in particular. You let your breath slow. You let your thoughts drift. You don't worry if you'll sleep. You simply do. And as your body relaxes into the embrace of gravity that feels more like a suggestion than a rule, you think, you haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped waiting for something to happen and started recognizing that it already is. Every moment, every breath, every blink of starlight. Mars is not a place where life happens to you. It's a place where life waits, for you to notice, to feel, to join. Sleep doesn't come like a curtain falling. It comes like a tide rising, slow, silent, inevitable. And Mars watches over you, unmoving, eternal, kind. There's something different about the sixth day, though you wouldn't call it change. No, change is an earth word, a word born of clocks and deadlines and seasons that hurry. Here, it feels more like deepening, like breath drawn just a little deeper, like silence settling a little more into your bones. You wake and you don't open your eyes right away, because the darkness is comfortable now, and the way the room breathes around you, the soft pulse of filtered air, the nearly imperceptible creak of the habitat as it expands and contracts with temperature, feels more like music than machinery. You lie there and notice things you hadn't before. The way your own heartbeat feels slower here. The way your body doesn't ache like it used to on Earth. The way your thoughts now float instead of tumble. You open your eyes and feel no urgency to rise, because there is no urgency at all on this planet, only patience. When you finally sit up, you move slowly, not from fatigue, but because rushing feels foreign now, like wearing someone else's coat. The floor greets your feet with familiar softness, the filtered air smells faintly of warmth and dust, and the dome still glows gently from the rising light outside, filtered by the thin atmosphere and scattered into shades of gold and soft ochre. You dress with ritual care, not out of necessity, but out of respect for the calm this world has given you. The simple acts, washing your face, warming your tea, brushing your hand over the same notebook you wrote in yesterday, these things have become anchors, sacred in their repetition. You eat slowly, not to stretch time, but because time no longer matters the way it once did. You don't check the solar clocks anymore. They seem like decorations now, nice to have, but unnecessary. You walk to the dome and press your forehead against the glass, gazing out across the wide plain where light slowly spills over the land, brushing ridges and craters with gold. You watch the dust shift as the wind begins to stir, not violently, just gently, like the breath of a sleeping creature. Mars has always seemed still, but now you can feel its movement, not loud, not obvious, but present, like something thinking beneath the surface. You whisper, "Good morning," and for the first time, you're not sure if you're speaking to yourself or to the planet. You don't suit up right away. You sit by the window and sip your tea. You let the warmth fill your chest. You let your gaze drift. You let your mind stay empty, soft, floating. When you do prepare to go out, you do so slowly, mindfully, hands steady as they guide the seals into place. Each click and hiss of pressure is familiar, not just from repetition, but from reverence. You understand now that this suit is not just protection, it's partnership. It lets you meet Mars without fear. When the door opens and you step outside, the wind kisses your helmet with a sound that no one else will hear, and the dust curls around your boots as you begin to walk. Today you don't walk far, just to the hill near the greenhouse, the one that's become your favorite. You sit at the top and don't bother looking far. Today you look close. You study the curve of a stone, the way dust gathers in tiny pockets, the way light reflects off a grain of sand just so. You don't take pictures. You don't take samples. You just take it in. And then, something small happens, A sound, not mechanical, not internal, but real. A soft, sharp crack from a rock nearby, where the cold night gave way to morning warmth and something fractured just slightly. It's not dramatic. It's not dangerous. It's just a reminder this planet is alive. Not like Earth, no, but in its own way. In its stillness. In its slow shifting. In the way time here leaves marks not every second, but every 1,000 years. You return early, not out of weariness, but because you feel full. You step inside, remove your suit, and run your fingers across the table, over your journal, over the stone you placed there days ago. You don't write this time. You just sit. You watch the leaves in the greenhouse shift slightly under the artificial breeze. You hum to yourself, softly, no melody, just sound. It's enough. Later you prepare food, but you eat half of it, not out of lack of appetite, but because you feel like less is enough. You sip more water. You stretch your arms. You lie on the floor again, this time letting your fingers splay wide, your legs rest still, your eyes open to the ceiling where soft lights dim slowly as the simulated dusk falls. Outside, the stars return, more vivid than before. Or maybe your eyes have simply learned how to see again. And just before bed, as you stand in front of the dome one last time, your breath fogging the glass in a small patch, you write a message there with your fingertip. I belong here. Not forever, but for now. And as you lie in bed, and your breath slows, and your body softens into rest, you know the truth. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped needing the world to change, and allowed yourself to be changed instead. Sleep comes like it always does now, not like a door closing, but like the stars unfolding, one by one, quietly, kindly. By the 7th day, there are no firsts left, not in the way you used to think of them. You've walked outside, you've seen the sunrise spread like golden breath across the horizon, you've touched stones older than memory, and you've whispered to silence so vast it pressed gently into the corners of your being. And yet, as you open your eyes in the dim light of the morning habitat, it still feels new, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You are no longer a visitor in this place. You are part of the rhythm now, part of the breath of dust and shadow. The artificial air tastes the same, the walls reflect the same soft tones, but everything feels quieter, not because it's quieter, but because you no longer resist the silence. You welcome it. You crave it. It fills spaces that used to ache. You rise not to chase the day, but to greet it. Your feet touch the floor as if remembering gravity anew. You stretch, not for health, but for joy. The simple pleasure of movement. You don't speak. You haven't spoken aloud since yesterday. Not because of loneliness. Because there is no need. Your thoughts are enough now. They are quieter, slower, like snow falling across an endless desert. You dress in your layers, your fingers brushing over fabric and memory alike. The tea is warm and tastes like something between comfort and habit. You hold it with both hands, letting the heat soak into your palms, grounding you. You sit at the dome, not to look for anything, but to see what is already there. The light is softer today, diffused by thin clouds high above, tiny ice crystals painting whispers across the upper sky. You find yourself staring not at the horizon, but at the texture of the glass, the way your breath fogs in tiny waves, the way the light refracts through the edge of the dome just enough to make rainbows. Small ones, imperfect, and yet somehow perfect. You don't go far today. You suit up slowly, each click and seal done with calm hands. The airlock cycles like breath held, then released. You step into the open world with the ease of someone who no longer carries the weight of expectation. You walk only to the greenhouse, the outer module, the place of green and glass and warmth. The door opens with a soft hiss. Inside, the air is humid and earthy, and the plants greet you not with sound or movement, but with stillness that feels alive. You crouch beside them, not to study or measure, but simply to be near. One of the seedlings has sprouted, barely a curl, a tiny green arc toward the grow light above. You reach toward it, then pause. You don't need to touch it. You just need to witness it. Life, reaching upward, slow and stubborn. It mirrors your own unfolding. You sit in silence. The warmth of the greenhouse wraps around you like a story that doesn't need to be told aloud. You whisper to the leaves, not words this time, just breath, and you think, maybe they feel it. Back in the main habitat, you lie on the floor, not from fatigue, but because the floor is firm and familiar. You stare at the ceiling, where small utility lights pulse gently with the cycles of power. Your hands rest on your stomach, your breaths rise and fall. You're aware of your own body in a way you never were before Mars. Not in the sense of its limitations, but in the way it fits within space, within time, within silence. Later you eat, slowly. A warm dish you've had before, but today you taste it more. You don't add spices, don't try to change it. You let it be exactly what it is. You wash your bowl with smooth, circular motions, letting the cloth move in rhythm with your breath. You dry it carefully. You place it exactly where it belongs. There is peace in placement, in order, in care. You write again. Just a few lines. Nothing profound. Nothing permanent. But the motion of pen on paper, the scratch of thought becoming form, that is enough. You draw a small circle. You shade it in. You label it only with a date. Then close the notebook and set it aside. As the light fades, you prepare for rest, not because you are tired, but because you have come to love the transition from waking to sleep. You dim the lights gradually. You listen to the hum of the systems. You lie beneath your blanket and feel the gentle pull of gravity hold you without weight. You close your eyes, and your body remembers how to drift. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've learned how to fall asleep without trying, without waiting, without needing anything more than breath and stillness. Sleep comes again, like it always does here, not from fatigue, but from fullness, from surrender, from being exactly where you are. The eighth day is not a beginning but a deepening, like the descent into warm water where the silence becomes fuller, where sound stops bouncing and begins to dissolve, where time thickens and stretches into something you no longer measure but simply drift through. You wake not with a start, not with a single thought, but with a quiet exhale that tells you you're still here, still surrounded by the soft machinery of life and the steady presence of a world that does not need you to be more than present. The air in the habitat feels warmer today, or perhaps it's your own sense of stillness that makes everything softer, everything kinder. You sit up slowly, not to begin something, but to continue something already unfolding, like walking into a conversation that started before you were born and will continue long after you sleep. You touch the floor with bare feet and let the subtle firmness ground you, not just to the surface of Mars, but to this small space that has become your shelter, your sanctuary, your mirror. The walls don't speak, but they reflect you, hold you, remind you with their curves and corners that you are not drifting, not lost, only slowed. The routines flow one into the next. Warm cloth on your face, water on your lips, the muted clink of utensils and the soft curl of steam rising from your food. You chew with the mindfulness of someone who has let go of rushing, who has no appointments, no headlines, no meetings, only moments, stretched and sweet and perfectly ordinary. You sit by the dome again and rest your forehead on the glass, and the outside world returns your gaze not with motion, but with presence. The dust has settled into long patterns again, shaped by winds you didn't hear, and the sun rises slowly, painting the horizon with its tired gold. There is no sound, and yet everything speaks. The sky whispers of distance. The rocks hum with patience. The light touches you like memory. You find yourself smiling for no reason other than the fact that you are here, that you are alive, that this moment exists and holds you gently within it. You don't go out today. You don't feel the need. Instead, you move through the habitat as if it were a forest of breath and thought. You touch objects as you pass them, not to move them, not to use them, but to remind yourself that you're part of this place. The surface of the table, the spine of the book, the metal edge of a console, the soft fabric of your bed. You lie down for no reason other than that your body asked. You curl onto your side and let yourself close your eyes, not to sleep, but to drift. And in that quiet, you begin to imagine, not earth, not memories, but forms and textures, colors you've never seen but feel like home, rhythms of thought that move like dust across plains. You feel yourself dissolving a little, not in fear, but in comfort. You are not a separate thing. You are a note in the song of this world. You are the dust. You are the breath in the pipe of the airlock. You are the soft electric beat of the greenhouse lights switching on. You eat again, not because you're hungry, but because it is part of the rhythm, and the rhythm itself nourishes you. The food is simple, the taste quiet, but you feel full, not just in your body, but in your awareness. You write again, not much, just a short line. Stillness is not absence. It is presence undisturbed. You don't think about the meaning. You let the words stand. You place the pen down and press your hand flat on the paper, feeling the soft resistance of the page beneath your palm. That too is enough. Later, as night folds itself gently around the dome and the stars prick open one by one, you sit in the greenhouse and watch the leaves rest. Plants sleep differently here, but you can feel their slowing. You match their stillness with your own. You sit in darkness, the glow of the control panel just bright enough to guide your way back to bed. You don't need to check the systems. You trust them now. You trust this place. You trust the quiet. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped asking what's next. Until you've stopped chasing the end of each moment and started walking slowly through the middle of it. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've listened to your own breath and found in it the same rhythm as the wind, the same pulse as the turning of the sky. And as you lie in bed, blanket pulled loosely over your body, your heartbeat low and steady, the hum of machines singing their lullaby of soft persistence, you understand something more. You are not here to conquer this world. You are here to be welcomed by it. And now you are. Sleep, like everything else here, arrives without announcement. It simply rises like the red dust in the morning, slow and sure and quiet. The ninth day is not a day at all, not in the way Earth taught you to count. There is no Monday here, no weekend, no start or stop. There is only light and less light, only breath and deeper breath, only silence that folds into more silence. You wake with your eyes still closed, sensing the atmosphere around you before thought begins. You are aware of warmth, of softness, of the hum of systems you no longer need to understand to trust. Your breath is slow, your body heavy and light at once. You don't open your eyes for a long time. You don't need to. You are not missing anything. Everything that matters is already within you. When you do sit up, the light is dim and golden, filtered through layers of structure and dust and distance. You stretch not because of stiffness, but because your body remembers what it means to inhabit itself fully. The blanket falls and folds. Your feet find the floor without thought. You move through the space as if floating, not because of the low gravity, but because your spirit no longer fights resistance. You dress slowly. You prepare your tea slowly. You eat slowly. Every movement is an act of reverence. This is no longer survival. This is rhythm. This is belonging. You don't plan today. You haven't for days. Planning feels sharp, and you are soft now. The dome shows you the morning, dust moving in quiet spirals, the land changing not in shape but in feeling. You stand there a long time. You sip. You breathe. You let your thoughts stretch out like shadows. You don't go outside today either. You don't need to see the horizon. You carry it inside now. The canyons, the ridges, the curve of the planet, they live behind your eyes. You can walk them from your chair. You can feel the wind even when there's none. Your memory is not images. It is presence. You sit on the floor of the greenhouse again. The flower that bloomed is beginning to curl. You watch it without sorrow. It is not death. It is change. And change here is not a thing to mourn. It is part of the great slowness. A reminder that even silence moves. You speak softly to the leaves. Not words. Just breath. A kindness exchanged. You water gently. Your hands steady. You touch the soil and hold it in your palm. The earth here is different. But still, it holds life. It says yes. You write later, only a few words. You don't try to explain. You don't try to name the feeling. You just let the pen move. I am no longer separate. Then you stop. because that is enough. You place the notebook on your chest and lie back on the padded bench, staring at the ceiling, at the gentle arc of light across it. You listen. You think you can hear the dust shifting outside, like soft fingers combing across stone. You close your eyes and see not darkness, but red and gold and the movement of time that doesn't measure, only unfolds. You eat again, without appetite but with intention. You chew slowly. You drink warm water. You feel the weight of the cup in your hand. You notice the tiny vibration of the habitat's systems against your fingertips. You feel the planet holding you, not tightly but enough. Enough to know you are not drifting. The lights dim. You don't resist the evening. It's not an end. It's just another shape of quiet. You lie down, blanket folded at your chest, your body long and still. The hum surrounds you. Your heart beats slowly. You do not count it. You only feel it. And as you fall inward, not down but deeper, you think, you haven't lived a day on Mars until you've let go of needing to explain why you're here. Until you've stopped looking for meaning and started feeling it. Until the quiet outside matches the quiet within. You sleep again, not to escape, but to return. The 10th day greets you not with sound, but with sensation, a subtle shift in warmth, a near imperceptible difference in the density of the air around your face. You do not open your eyes immediately. The body speaks first, and today, it whispers of stillness with a different tone, not stagnation, but rootedness. You feel it in your spine as you lie there, the gentle pull of Mars beneath you like a thread, not tugging, just reminding you, you are here. Still here. Fully here. When your eyes finally open, the dome's inner light has adjusted to the softened hue of the morning beyond it. The landscape, though unchanged in form, feels deeper, as if it, too, had spent the night in contemplation. You sit up, not with effort but with care, and notice how the air tastes faintly of metal and mint, something in the filtration system refreshed, perhaps, or maybe your perception has simply sharpened with the slow uncoiling of solitude. Your feet find the floor again, bare and quiet. The rituals unfold not by decision but by rhythm. You clean the small table where you prepare your tea, not because it is dirty, but because it is an act of mindfulness. You wash your face with warm water. You touch your skin and notice the way your fingers hesitate, as if to ask permission before making contact. The body, the self, the planet, none of them belong to each other. But they are in agreement now. That is enough. In the greenhouse, the flower has dropped one petal. You find it resting on the soil like a final punctuation mark in a sentence that hasn't ended. You don't pick it up. You leave it there to continue the sentence. Your hands are in the soil again, palms open, not grasping. There is a quiet in this room that deepens everything. It makes your thoughts translucent. You speak again, not aloud, not even inwardly, but in presence, which is its own language. Later you eat half an orange. The juice surprises you, as if you've never tasted sweetness before. You close your eyes while chewing, and the memory that surfaces is not of earth, but of yesterday. The petal, the hum, the soft arc of shadow on your floor. Memory no longer reaches back in years. It reaches across moments. Mars teaches you to measure time not by calendar, but by clarity. You clean the tools at the workbench, those you haven't used in days. The small screwdrivers, the wires, the notations on faded labels. You don't plan to fix anything. You just touch them. Hold them. As if touching them is a way of saying, I remember who I used to be. But you don't linger there. The you that came here isn't the one that stays. And the one that stays doesn't need to do to be. Outside the dome, a gust of wind stirs the dust into elegant currents. You watch them the way you once watched waves. They are slower, but just as inevitable. The world moves even when it looks still. You breathe this in. Your lungs seem to know how to match the cadence of the planet's quiet. You write again. The notebook opens to yesterday's page, and you run your finger along the words. I am no longer separate. Today, you had only one more line. I am not waiting to return. You stare at the page for a long time, not out of doubt, but because you feel the truth of it settle into you like sediment in still water. At midday, you sit by the airlock not to exit, but to feel its nearness. The sealed door, the waiting suit, the protocols you memorized. They no longer carry urgency. They're just part of the habitat, like a cupboard, like a chair. Safety is not a task here. It is a texture. You hum softly, for no reason. The sound echoes just enough to feel like company, and you smile, not from joy, exactly, but from acknowledgement. You have grown to know yourself not as a separate being in this place, but as a thread in its tapestry. You do not need to prove you belong. You already do. Evening arrives as a hush. You do not turn on the lights right away. You let the shadow deepen. Let the room become its own form of silence. Your hands cradle a mug of warm broth. The warmth is real, but also memory, the kind that returns through taste and steam and breath. You do not think of earth. You do not think of home. You think of now, of here, of this. Later, before sleep, you press your ear against the padded wall. You listen. You hear your heart. You hear the system. You hear the way both carry on without you needing to direct them. There is no control left in you, only consent, only quiet permission. You sleep curled slightly tonight, the way you imagine a seed sleeps underground. Not dormant, but resting, preparing, rooting deeper, letting the world above and around continue its slow, deliberate turning. And as you begin to dissolve into the warmth of sleep, you do not wonder what tomorrow will bring. There is no tomorrow here. Only the next shape of stillness. Only the next breath of Mars. You wake before the light changes. Not because something stirs you, but because the stillness is complete enough to carry you upward from sleep without force. There is no alarm, no signal, no directive. Just breath. Just the rhythm of your body meeting the rhythm of this place. You stay there, lying flat, eyes closed, for long minutes that could be hours. You don't count. Time on Mars is not a ladder. It is a pool. And this morning you are floating. When you do sit up, the habitat feels larger. Or maybe you've grown smaller, quieter inside. There is more room around your thoughts now. They no longer press against your temples. They wander without needing to arrive anywhere. You drink water slowly, letting each swallow touch the edges of your awareness. You dress in the same clothes as yesterday. They are soft now, worn into the shape of your life here. You don't miss variety. You don't crave change. You crave texture, familiarity. The sound of fabric brushing your skin is enough. You return to the greenhouse, your feet silent on the floor. The light here is more golden than elsewhere. The air warmer. It smells of earth, of green, of slow growth. The flower that dropped its petal now drops another. You catch this one in your palm. You hold it like a breath. Not to keep it, just to feel it. You do not speak aloud, but something inside you forms the words. This is what staying feels like. You plant new seeds today, not because you need more plants, but because the act of placing life into soil has become part of how you understand yourself. You dig small spaces with your fingers. You whisper to the seeds, not in language, but in stillness. You cover them gently. You water them gently. You stay beside them longer than you need to. Long enough for presence to be its own nourishment. Later, you sit by the central window of the dome. You bring your tea. You bring your breath. The Martian landscape waits for you with the same patience it gives to stone and time. You no longer watch it to understand. You watch it to belong. The canyons far in the distance look like thought made solid. The dust clouds rise like stories. You do not write them down. You let them pass through you. A message arrives. You see the notification light blink once, then rest. You walk to the console but don't rush. You already know the message doesn't need urgency. Nothing does. You open it, and there are words from Earth. Updates. Questions. Affection. Someone misses you. Someone asks how you are. You do not answer right away. You sit with the message like you sit with the wind, letting it touch you, not shake you. You will reply. But not now. The reply must come from stillness, not habit. You write again. This time, more slowly. You do not try to summarize. You write what the silence teaches. There is no arrival, only deepening. There is no waiting, only noticing. There is no loneliness, only vastness. You place the pen down without closing the notebook. You leave it open on the table, like a conversation paused mid-sentence. You walk slowly to the storage shelf and take out a small stone you brought inside days ago. A red one, flat and smooth. You turn it over in your hand. You press it to your cheek. It holds the temperature of the room and the memory of outside. You return it to its place without needing a reason. Evening comes like mist. Gentle, without edges. The air cools by a degree. Your body notices before your mind does. You warm broth again, but this time you drink it by the threshold, standing near the suit lockers. You don't need the suit tonight. You don't even think of walking out. You're already out, in a way. The boundary between inside and outside has softened. Before bed, you light a small lamp. Not because you need light, but because you want to tend to something. Its glow is amber, low. It makes shadows on the wall, shapes that remind you of memory, not exact, but familiar. You watch them as you lie down. You place your hand on your chest, where the notebook rested yesterday. Your heart is slow, still, steady. You feel it move through your hand like warmth through cloth. And just before you fall asleep, you think. You open your eyes before waking, if waking can even be called that now. It's more a shifting, a soft turning toward awareness without leaving the gentle folds of rest. Your body is still, but your senses reach outward, into the space, into the quiet, into the memory of dust and filtered light. There is no suddenness, no break. You are still part of the night, even as the room gently gathers its light. You lie still and listen, not to sound, but to presence. The breath of the habitat. The low murmur of life support systems doing their work without needing praise. The air moves across your skin, and you notice it. You notice everything. The difference between coolness and absence. The way warmth lingers in the corners of the room. The press of your own chest rising, falling. It is all slow. It is all enough. Today begins not with action but with a kind of devotion. You sit up slowly, your hands resting lightly on the edge of the sleeping bench, as though touching the moment. You do not speak. You do not name. You do not command the day into being. You simply enter it. Your tea is already prepared by the time you notice you've made it. Muscle memory guided by stillness. The steam curls like breath you didn't know you were holding. You carry it in both hands. Not for fear of spilling, but because it deserves both hands. You drink it slowly, and it becomes a morning. You walk barefoot to the dome's edge. The floor is warm underfoot. The light outside is thin and dusty, like powdered gold suspended in the silence. There are no sharp lines, just the soft outlines of canyons and ridges you've come to know like the inside of your palms. You do not reach for a camera. You haven't for days. There is no urge to capture. You're already keeping it, not in pixels, but in breath. The greenhouse calls you, not with sound, but with its own kind of gravity. You step in, and the air shifts. Greener, denser, still holding warmth from yesterday's light. The flower is almost gone now. Only the stem remains, a quiet witness. You touch it gently, not to mourn, to thank. The new seeds haven't sprouted, but you already know they will. You can feel it in the soil, in the weight of the watering can, in the pulse beneath the surface that tells you life is not a matter of speed. It is a matter of presence. You water. You hum, not a tune, just vibration. The plants understand. Or maybe they don't. But you do. And that's enough. You sit cross-legged by the grow lights, letting them warm your face. You close your eyes, and behind your lids, you see nothing. And then everything. The red arcs of valleys. The swirling dust devils that dance out beyond the dome. The shape of silence as it folds around your thoughts. You don't think about Earth. You haven't, not really, for some time now. Earth feels like a story someone else told you once, tender and distant. At midday, you eat a handful of nuts and a slice of preserved fruit. Not for hunger, but because the ritual is grounding. You choose slowly, not out of discipline but delight. Every movement on Mars feels like a small ceremony. Not sacred, just real. Undeniably real. You write again. Not in the notebook this time, but with your fingertip on the condensation gathered along the inner dome wall. A word, a line, a curve. It disappears almost as soon as it forms. And yet you smile. Ephemeral things matter more now. Because they are honest. In the afternoon, you open a storage container and take out a small square of fabric. A keepsake, perhaps. You don't remember why you brought it anymore. But you hold it now like it holds you. You fold it. Unfold it. Let it rest across your lap. You are not searching for meaning. You are learning to recognize when meaning is simply the act of staying with something long enough to listen. There is no project today. No goal. You do not log data. You do not scan terrain. You do not build. You allow the day to build itself around you, quietly, like sediment, like breath, like time. Evening arrives like a hand laid gently on your shoulder. The habitat dims. You do not need to adjust anything. The systems know. You've lived with them long enough for trust to become kinship. You warm your dinner and sit near the dome, watching the last red light draw thin across the sky. It is not a sunset in the Earth's sense. It is more a slowing down of light's desire to be seen. You lie down early, not from weariness, but from readiness. The blanket is soft. The air hums. Your heart slows to match it. You do not close your eyes right away. You watch the shadows. You feel them. You think nothing here hurries. Not even darkness. Today begins with no beginning. There is no threshold to cross, no sound to mark the change. You are already in it. This soft unfolding of consciousness that feels less like waking and more like remembering where you are. There is no sharpness, no division. Only the breath that rises gently within you, and the stillness that receives it. You stay lying down longer than usual, not from fatigue but from reverence. The warmth of the blanket is not comfort, it is continuity. The air against your face is familiar now, not because it has changed, but because you have. You no longer resist the pace of this place. You've dropped below it. You're inside it now. When you do rise, it is unhurried. Your body responds not to need, but to invitation. The invitation of motion, of standing, of beginning to move not toward anything but simply within. You prepare your tea. You sip it with both hands wrapped around the cup, as if holding the morning itself. You do not speak. You haven't, not aloud, for what feels like days. There is no loneliness in this silence. It is not emptiness. It is fullness without sound. You remember how much of your old life was filled with words that reached, that stretched, that sought. Here, there is nowhere to reach, only to rest. You sit again by the dome's edge. The land is as it always is, endlessly changed, endlessly the same. The dust shifts, and you shift with it. You do not think about going outside. You no longer distinguish between here and there. The planet is not something separate from you. It holds you without asking, and you stay without needing reason. The greenhouse calls to you in quiet pulses. You rise without thought. The door slides open with the same soft sigh, and inside, the air greets you. Warmer, wetter, full of breath not your own. The flower stem is now only green memory. But beside it, the soil breaks slightly. A curve, a split, a hint of new life pushing upward. You do not celebrate. You bear witness. You kneel beside it and watch, not for change but for being. There is something ancient in this, kneeling before something that cannot see you, cannot know you, but still allows you to be near. You water gently. You speak without sound. You rest your palm on the warm ground and close your eyes. You breathe into the space between things, and the silence responds with more silence. Later you eat, but you cannot remember choosing the food. It appeared in your hands because your body is learning what it needs. The act of eating is no longer maintenance. It is agreement. A quiet agreement between your body and the day. You write again. Not in the notebook. Not on the wall. But inside. You trace words along the surface of your thought like your finger on glass. The words are slow, unfinished, formless. They do not seek the page. They live in the breathe between sentences. I am still here, you think, and stillness is no longer absence. You clean today, not because of dirt, but because of rhythm. Wiping surfaces is like smoothing the folds of time. Dusting is not about removal, it is a gesture of care. Even the machines, even the cold metal panels, each touch is a form of saying, I see you. I remain. You remember Earth differently now. Not in images, in sensations. The feel of rain on your wrist. The heaviness of humidity. The sound of birds arguing. None of these make you ache. They simply live beside the Martian wind inside you now. Not competing. Just coexisting. You are no longer comparing. You are layering. Evening comes early, but you cannot say how. It is not a shift in light, but in tone. The world leans inward. The quiet wraps closer. You sit near the hatch and run your fingers along the metal seam. You do not want to open it. You want to honor that it exists. That you could step outside again if you needed to. But you don't need to. Not today. Today, you are already there. You lie down early again. The light dims on its own. You do not adjust. You receive. The blanket tucks around you like breath. Your hands rest on your stomach. Your chest rises and falls as the habitat's pulse slows with you. And just before sleep, just before the last thought curls inward and vanishes, you think. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped waiting to go home. Until you understand that home is not a place or a planet or a sky. It is the moment your breath matches the rhythm of where you are. The moment you no longer ask what's next, but instead say, this is. And you sleep. Not to forget, but because there is nothing left to search for. Only to be. There is no dream this time. No images, no messages, no echoes from Earth's memory. Only sleep that holds like dust, holds the shape of a footprint, without question, without resistance. When you wake, it is not to a feeling of beginning. It is to continuation, as if the night never ended, only shifted weight. You sit up before your mind does. Your body leads, as it often does now. Your feet find the floor with a gentle hush. The air is the same temperature as yesterday, as the day before. But somehow, it feels different. Not colder, not warmer, just more known. The silence greets you like a companion. Not shy, not loud, simply there. You prepare your tea as always. The same cup, the same steep, the same small sigh of the water as it touches the leaves. But you notice something today. You're not waiting for it to cool. You're not waiting at all. You sip, and it becomes time. You write earlier than usual. Before the greenhouse. Before the dome. Just a sentence. A single one. There is no outside anymore. You stare at the words. You do not mean the habitat. You do not mean Mars. You mean something deeper. The distance between self and space is gone. You're not here. You are here. And that is the difference. You fold the notebook closed. Gently. Like closing your own eyelids. You carry the silence into the greenhouse. You don't rush. You never rush now. The plants are waiting, not for you, but with you. The sprout has broken through. The smallest green arc bent toward the light, trembling slightly from some invisible breath of air. You smile, but not with your face, with your whole body. You crouch. You say nothing. You let the quiet bloom between you and the new leaf. This is not celebration. This is recognition. You water, as always. You tend. You touch. But your hands have grown softer, slower. Even the dirt knows you now. You could swear it loosens for your fingers. You could swear it listens. Later you clean the edge of the dome, not out of necessity, but as a way to meet the horizon again. To look outward without leaving. The glass is streaked with red. You wipe, and Mars appears again. Pale ridges. Swirling dust like breath made visible. Far off, a rock you've seen before catches light in a way that makes it feel like a signal. But you know now, the planet sends no messages. It simply is. You are the one who needed to listen. Now you don't. You simply stay. You eat a preserved fig and a cube of protein. You press your finger into the fig's center before biting it, just to feel the texture. That is the kind of attention you give things now. Not because they're rare, because they are here. You chew slowly. You sip warm water. You pause between each movement. Each gesture is a complete thought. In the afternoon, you open the hatch, not to step outside, just to feel the airlock hold its breath. You stand at the threshold, inside, outside. These words no longer argue. The pressure change hums softly through the walls. You listen like you're listening to your own heartbeat. Then you seal it again. not in reluctance, in peace. You sit on the floor in the center of the habitat. You close your eyes. You listen inward, downward, deeper than the hum. You feel the planet beneath you, not metaphor, not symbol, just presence. You wonder if it feels you too, but you do not dwell. Wondering is enough. When the lights dim, you do not notice until your body tells you it's time, not to sleep, but to lie down, to become still, to take your place once again in the rhythm of breath and time and nothing else. You place the folded fabric, the one from earth, under your head, not for comfort, for continuity. A small bridge you no longer need, but still keep. You think of earth like you think of childhood. A beautiful echo. No longing. Just a soft kind of knowing that it shaped you. You whisper something into the dark. Not words. Just breath. You think the plant might hear it. Or the stone. Or the dust. And as you drift, with eyes closed but so wide, you think, you haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped asking what Mars is and begun to ask what you are in its presence. Until you've learned that survival was never the goal. It was only the beginning. That the real life comes in the surrender. In the small, holy act of staying. And you sleep. Not under stars, not under sky, but under stillness. And stillness is enough. It is difficult now to say where one day ends and another begins. Not because they blur, but because they no longer compete. You wake again, if that word still applies, not startled, not summoned, but simply because your body says it is time to rise. Not time to act. Just time to be vertical. To drink. To breathe. To begin again without beginning. The light is dim when you sit up, as it always is. Mars does not flood your space with brightness. It seeps. It settles. It arrives like a thought forming at the edge of memory. You let your feet find the floor. You let your spine rise like a seedling in time lapse, except you are no longer in a hurry to grow. There are no alarms anymore. No schedule pings. You disabled the last remaining notifications 3 souls ago. You don't miss them. Time is no longer a ladder. It is a pool. You enter it gently, and it holds you. Your tea today is warmer than usual. You forgot to wait for it to cool. You sip anyway, and the heat surprises you. You close your eyes, holding the burn on your tongue for a moment longer than necessary. It reminds you you're still here. Still capable of contrast, still made of thresholds. You watch the dome, but not to check the weather. You know the weather. Dust, thin wind, pale light. It does not change much, but your watching does. Some days you see movement in the dust like memory trying to return. Other days, you see only stillness, and that too feels alive. You don't go to the greenhouse immediately. The sprout will wait. Life is patient here. Everything on Mars is. You spend a long time just sitting with your hands around your cup, watching condensation form and vanish. You consider that this tiny disappearing, is the closest thing to a clock you still trust. When you do go to the plants, the sprout has lengthened. Another has joined it. Two green threads now, impossibly delicate and impossibly certain. You do not exclaim. You do not note it in the log. You kneel and water them in silence. The quiet between you is enough. You hum to them, low and tuneless. Not for them. For you. For the space. For the echo of aliveness that needs no reply. You brush your fingers along the soil and feel its warmth. You think about Earth for a single breath, not the planet, but the weight of walking there. The sound of shoes on sidewalk. The rush of cities. It doesn't hurt to remember, but it feels too fast now. Like flipping pages too quickly. You return to the dust, the stillness, the slow. You clean the solar panels this afternoon. Outside. Slowly. The suit feels less like a barrier now, more like skin. You step carefully. You touch the panel edges like you might touch the edge of a book you've read too many times to count. The dust lifts in slow arcs. You whisper a thank you to no one in particular. To the dust, perhaps, or to the gravity that holds you just enough. The sun is low when you return. You sit again by the dome. You drink broth, warm and plain, from a silver cup. You don't taste salt anymore. You taste warmth, texture, gravity. Enough. You do not write today. You don't need to. The words are already inside, pacing quietly. They are not restless. They are waiting. Maybe tomorrow they'll emerge. Or maybe not. You no longer require a record to prove something happened. Living it is enough. You lie down before the lights dim. You are not tired. You are not alert. You are simply finished with uprightness. You fold the blanket across your body and let your fingers rest on your ribs. You feel your chest rise. Fall. Rise. Fall. It is the most ancient rhythm. And it still belongs to you. You stare at the ceiling and imagine the Martian crust above you, then the airless sky, then the stars. You wonder if Earth is up there, in some direction you can't name. You feel no pull, only presence. And as the room dims around you, like the hush of breath before sleep, you think, you haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped needing Mars to teach you anything. Until you've let the planet be what it is, silent, slow, unchanging, and still found yourself changing. Until you understand that peace is not a gift from this place, but a shape you finally grew into. By now, waking feels like a continuation of breathing. Not an event. Not a crossing. There is no sharp edge between sleep and waking, between day and night, between you and this place. You rise without rising. Your eyes open without needing reason. You are simply here. Again. The first thing you do is nothing. You sit up, but stay still. The blanket around your waist. Your feet on the floor. Your hands resting open. You feel the temperature of the air before you move. You feel the slow spin of the habitat in your spine. You feel your heartbeat, not loud, not fast, just present. A constant small rhythm that doesn't ask to be heard, only kept. The light filters in, faint and pale, the way it always does now. like gold behind dust, like a memory you never lived but still recognize. You don't look at the clock. You haven't in a long time. You don't think in minutes anymore, only in gestures, in moments that expand and contract without measurement. You drink your tea, but today you do it in bed. The warmth pools in your chest. The steam rises toward your eyes. You blink slowly, letting it blur the edges of everything. You think maybe this is how the planet sees too, soft, patient, without lines. You don't eat yet. You don't move yet. You stare at the dome's ceiling and count the thin metal arcs, not for number, but for familiarity. Each line is part of your map now. Not a map to anywhere. A map of staying. When you finally stand, you do it like a ceremony. Barefoot. Steady. You roll your shoulders as if waking them from their own dream. The floor is smooth beneath you, warmed slightly from your body's heat. Every step to the table is quiet, like a choice. You touch each object you pass, a spoon, the folded towel, the plant log, the rim of your water cup. Each touch is not task. It is presence. Nothing is wasted anymore. Even your fingertips are slow. You visit the greenhouse after that. Of course. You always do. The sprout has grown again. Taller. More certain. Its first leaf has opened, flat and brave. The second is curled, still deciding. You feel a deep affection that doesn't reach your face. It stays in your chest like a warm stone. You speak to it today. Not aloud. In thought. Not in language, exactly. Just the shape of kindness. You crouch beside it and run your thumb over the nearby soil. You notice a worm has appeared, tiny, pink-coiled. It's working, slowly, invisibly. You smile. The system is alive. Without needing applause. The rest of the day stretches. It doesn't go anywhere. It just opens. You clean a filter. You adjust a hinge. You write a single word in your notebook. Stillness. That's all. You close the page. It says enough. You think of Earth again, but not nostalgically. You think of the noise, the names, the pace, the urgency. You remember it like you remember a city you once visited. Important. Beautiful. Gone now, in the way that time transforms all things. Outside, the dust swirls lightly. You watch it for an hour. Maybe more. The patterns form and unform like breath. Like thought. Like sleep. Nothing here is dramatic, and nothing needs to be. You eat. A small meal. You taste the warmth of it, not the flavor. You chew like you're listening. You drink water and press your palm to your chest. It's still beating. Still yours. Evening comes without announcement. The lights dim. The hum of systems lowers like someone whispering a lullaby without words. You sit for a while longer, near the dome's edge, your knees drawn up, your back against the padded wall. And when you lie down, you do not feel the end of something. Only the next chapter of stillness. Of being. Of letting the planet hold you, not in its arms, but in its silence. And just before sleep, real sleep, The kind that comes when there's nothing left to ask. You think. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've let the silence become your language. Until you've stopped waiting for the planet to respond. Until you realize it has been responding, all along, just not in words, not in weather, not in science, but in stillness, in slowness, in the permission to stay. The day doesn't greet you, it simply finds you already there. Your breath leads the moment, not your thoughts. You do not wake as you once understood the term. You return, calmly, seamlessly, to the shape of yourself in this place. Your eyes open, and the ceiling curves above you, familiar as breath. The light is a little dimmer today, or maybe your eyes are slower to adjust. Either way, it makes no difference. You are not here to chase brightness. You have stopped interpreting things as signs. A shadow is not a message. A shift in hue is not an omen. It is simply what it is. And you are simply who you are, held inside the gentle machinery of this long moment called existence. Your limbs feel rested, not from sleep but from quiet. There is a difference. You move as though the air itself is thicker, but not in resistance. In embrace. You do not rush the rising. It is not a task. It is an unfolding. You make your tea again. Every day the same. But today, you hold the mug longer before drinking. The heat curls around your fingers. You feel its weight. The silence around you is not empty. It is saturated. It contains everything. You sip, and the warmth meets your chest like a homecoming. The sprout is taller again. It has learned the direction of light. It no longer guesses. It reaches with purpose. You crouch beside it and breathe. You don't speak. You don't need to. There is nothing to say. The leaf curls slightly toward you, as if aware, not of you as person, but of you as presence. You water the soil. Slowly. Carefully. You watch the moisture spread and vanish below the surface. You touch the rim of the pot with your fingertip and leave it there a long time. Life, in this place, is a slow negotiation between effort and patience. You are learning that balance from this plant more than from any manual you brought with you. You do not log the growth today. There will be no entry. You are no longer interested in tracking change. You are living within it. At midday, or what you used to call midday, you open the outer hatch again. Not to step outside, just to feel the airlock's breath. The small gasp of pressure, the gentle mechanical hum. You stand there for many minutes, your forehead lightly touching the interior frame. You think of nothing. You do not try to name what you feel. You let it be. Later you write again. This time, a full sentence. Mars does not want me to understand it, only to remain. You stare at the line. You know it is not about Mars. Not really. It is about existence, about place, about not needing to wrestle meaning from the soil, but learning to lie down in it. You eat, but the hunger is gone now. It's not that your body doesn't need fuel. It's that you are no longer ruled by desire. You chew as you breathe. Not to end the chewing, but to live inside it. A spoonful of grain. A sip of broth. The taste of metal, of minerals, of being here. In the afternoon, you sit by the greenhouse wall and stare at your own reflection in the curved panel. You barely recognize yourself anymore. Not because you've changed, but because the image doesn't matter. You are not the face, not the outline. You are the rhythm inside the breath, the steadiness within the slow. You fall asleep briefly in the chair, not because you are tired, but because the silence carried you. When you wake, dusk is here, though that word has lost meaning too. Dusk is simply a softer kind of presence, a blue folded into red, a whisper after a long sentence. You fold your blanket carefully, lay it across the bench. You wash your hands slowly, as though returning them to yourself. And then you lie down. No thoughts press in. No worries ask to be answered. There is only this. The sound of the distant hum. The warmth of your own skin. The curve of gravity, gentle and familiar. The knowing that you are no longer waiting to be anything other than here. And as you drift, without resistance, without destination, you think. You haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped needing contrast. Until you've let go of better, of worse, of before, of after. Until each breath becomes not a bridge to the next, but a home all its own. Until you are no longer in solitude, but in communion, with the dust, the silence, the stillness, and whatever version of yourself remains when all the questions have fallen away. There is no before and after anymore. Only this breath, and then the next. You rise, not because the day begins, but because your body has drifted upward like something buoyant in still water. Your eyes open slowly. The light is gray-pink, washed through layers of dome and atmosphere and memory. You do not wonder what time it is. You do not need a clock to know you are alive. The blanket holds your shape even after you fold it away. You feel its warmth fading. That, too, is a kind of presence. The memory of contact. You place your feet flat on the floor and sit still for a long time, letting your body become aware of itself again. Shoulders, knees, ribs, breath. Today you speak a word aloud. Just one. It is not for anyone to hear, and yet it makes a sound in the room like a stone dropped in dust. You don't repeat it. It's not important what the word was. What mattered was its sound, its arrival, its permission. You drink water first today, not tea. It tastes like metal and coolness, like stone that once held fire. You feel it trace its path down into you and think, I am the system now. Not just inside it. I am it. You go to the greenhouse. The sprout has unfolded another leaf. The older ones are beginning to darken, sturdy now, no longer shy. You kneel and press your cheek to the edge of the soil bed, not to measure, not to tend, just to be close. The smell of it, faint and clean, is like breathing the memory of Earth through the lungs of Mars. You stay there a long time. You don't count how long. You stop even thinking of the next thing. You place your hand flat against the soil. Not deep. Just enough to feel the line where warmth meets coolness. The boundary between surface and depth. Later you write again. 3 lines. There are no days here. There are only layers of light. I live in the fold between them. You close the notebook and place it under your sleeping pad. Not to hide it, to let it rest. You eat. The food is plain. The texture matters more now than the taste. You notice every grain, every motion of your jaw. You chew until nothing remains but the decision to swallow. Even eating has become a kind of still meditation, a ritual that requires no meaning, only presence. Outside, the wind is quiet today. You press your ear to the dome wall and listen. You think you hear sand shifting, or maybe it is the sound of your own breath reflected back. It makes no difference. The inside and the outside are no longer opposites, just variations of the same stillness. At some point you begin cleaning, not because it is necessary, but because your hands wish to move in service of calm. You wipe each surface with long, circular strokes. You hum a sound you don't recognize, low, melodic, not quite a song. It reverberates faintly, like a lullaby meant for the air itself. You do not look at Earth today. You don't bring it into your thoughts. You no longer balance here and there. Only here. Only now. Earth has become like childhood, real, formative, but not the place you live anymore. The light dims again, and you notice it only because your shadow softens. The edges of your body begin to blur into the room. You sit in the corner near the plants, arms wrapped around your knees, chin resting softly. You feel a kind of ache, not of sadness but of deep, unspeakable stillness, as though something vast and quiet inside you has finally finished falling. And just before you lie down, just before your back meets the soft bench and your eyes close again into that gentle red-gold silence, you think, you haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped asking what comes next. Until you've stopped needing the day to justify itself. Until you've stopped performing even for yourself. Until your breath becomes your only audience, and even it forgets to judge. You sleep with your palms facing upward. Not in surrender. Not in offering. Just in peace. Just in quiet. Just in the knowing, this too is life. Today, the silence is not empty. It is full, like a container waiting to be filled, not with noise, but with the weight of stillness itself. You awaken without effort, as though your body has gently lifted itself out of sleep, carrying the soft memory of dreams that do not need remembering. The light through the dome is pale, almost liquid, slipping slowly across the floor. You feel the gravity underfoot, not light, not heavy, but just enough to remind you that you are here, tethered to this strange, distant world. You sit quietly, listening to the hum of the habitat. It is steady, unchanging, a breath that never falters. You realize that it is not just the systems that breathe, but you too, in rhythm, in harmony, in a dance without music. You move deliberately, with no rush or purpose beyond the moment itself. The act of dressing becomes a meditation. Each fabric against skin, each fold and tug, a small act of presence. You prepare your tea and watch the steam curl upward, tracing invisible paths to the ceiling. You think about the steam and how it rises and disappears, and it strikes you how everything here is a constant becoming and unbecoming. Outside, the dust swirls faintly, moving in patterns too slow to track, too subtle to catch except by patient watching. You stand by the window, feeling the vastness pressing gently against the glass. You go to the greenhouse, kneeling beside the sprout that has grown stronger each day. Its leaves reach out like quiet hands, steady and sure. You touch the soil, feeling its graininess, its warmth, its promise. You whisper to it, not words, just breath, just intention. You write in your notebook, but today the page remains mostly blank, save for a single word at the center, belonging. You pause over that word. It is not something you decided. It grew inside you like the plants, slowly, naturally, without force. Your meal is simple, taken slowly. You chew and swallow with the attention of someone tasting for the first time. The food is nourishment, yes, but also a reminder of life's persistence. The day moves without schedule. There is no hurry, no plan, no expectation. Time feels like water flowing over stones, smooth, cool, and endlessly patient. As evening descends, the light softens into a deep, gentle red. You fold your blanket carefully and settle onto your bench. The hum surrounds you like a soft tide. Your thoughts do not race. They do not wander. They do not cling. They simply float in the quiet, like dust motes dancing in a sunbeam. You close your eyes and feel the planet's slow pulse beneath you, not in its storms or silence, but in the way it holds you here. Not tightly, not loosely, but just enough. And as you drift inward deeper than sleep, you think, you haven't lived a day on Mars until you've stopped searching for a reason. Until you've stopped needing a story. Until you have simply become the stillness you sought. And in that stillness you find home.